Hello, my friends. Welcome to Ask Me Anything, Tuesday, April 18th. Uh, my dog and I, oh, you can't see her. Can you? Can you see my dog? Yeah, there's the back of her head. We are here to answer your questions about voiceover. I hope this day finds you well. Um, I'm feeling pretty good today, gotta say. I'm mightily aware that my energy is, up and down and up and down as I continue to contemplate my dad and his passing and all those things. And it kind of hits you, in strange and unexpected times. But I got a really good night's sleep last night, and I'm kind of getting caught up on my auditions, and things are good. So, how are you? Tell me, and tell me that you're here. Hi, John. I'm always so happy to see your name and happy that you're here. Um, yeah, let me know how you are too. Okay. And if you're watching this on replay, let me know that you're here as well, and I'll come back and revisit and say hello to you. Today, we are going to talk about finding your posse, finding community. It's something we touched on before, but I kind of wanted to go into a little bit more detail about it and what that means. Can you guys let me know how my sound is? Like, can you hear me well? Do I need to turn things up? Do I need to turn things down? Let me know. Hello, Mike Praviti. Nice to see you too. I got your email. Made me very happy. I'll reply. I'm a little late replying to things, so sorry about that. But I did get it. Okay, good. Sounds good. Excellent. Okay, before we get started, I just want to ask if you notice that my glasses just keep getting bigger. They just keep getting bigger and bigger. The frame's bigger and bigger. Pretty soon, I'm going to show up with big clown glasses and be like, "What? This is what I normally wear." Um, yeah, I found these. I got these a long time ago, and I'm like, "Wow, those are really, really big glasses." But I'm going to wear them. Um, Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what it means to find your posse and what exactly that means and the function that it serves. And of course, it's because we need people around us who understand what we do and on whom we can. Oh my gosh, I think I'm recording. That is hilarious. Stop. I'm going to stop this. Okay. Okay. Didn't mean to do that. Um, it's so funny. I was inadvertently recording my voice in Twisted Wave. Anyway, that's done. Um, we need people around us, you know, who are like-minded and do the thing that we do, so that we continue to fight this sense that we are alone in this business and alone doing what we do, and that no one understands us. When in fact, there's a large group of people out in the world who do understand. Um, you know, the life of an artist, and that really is the kind of life that we lead, So, but I want to get into a little bit kind of deeper thing with that, because it really isn't just a matter of finding like-minded people. That's not really it. Because as in any facet or area of our lives, if we just hang out with people who agree with us about everything, we're not going to learn very much. And we're going to start to sort of isolate within our group. And, once you do that kind of thing, you get a little bit of group think, and then you start thinking that either you're better than other people or you're worse than other people. And it just kind of starts to separate us from each other. And in the words of Hall and Oates, I can't go for that. I think we have to be really mindful in every facet of our lives. So I just want to share with you kind of how my work life and professional life and personal life all kind of go together. And I will say that for the first, 20 some years, 20, 25 years, I hung out with voice actors who do voiceover in a very similar way, right? We all came from an acting background. Um, we all met up, we all lived in Los Angeles. We all met up in the lobby of our agencies. We all have agents. We all worked union, right? All of that. And so there was all that like-mindedness, right? And of course, when the voiceover business really started to change in the late 1990s and early 2000s, with voicebank.net, which eventually became voices.com, and with sort of clearinghouse kind of audition places, right, where agencies across the country could get the same type of copy, and then the internet and the availability of computers and home studios and the proliferation of that, really began to change the landscape. And of course, people in my circles, if you will, in LA are like, well, who are those people? Yeah, well, we're better than they are. And then the commercial strike of 2000 was like, oh, the work's not going to go non-union if we strike. That's not going to happen because everybody knows that union talent is better than non-union talent. And it's like, really? We're that's what we're saying now? Like, so the difference, so if yesterday I was non-union and today I joined the union, I'm better now because I paid some dues to an organization. That's not what makes a person good. That's not what makes a person talented. And so again, it's evidence of like having a narrow group of people, that you hang out with, a narrowly focused group of people that you hang out with. And so it wasn't until I want to say 2017, really, uh, the first time I went to VO Atlanta, and I've said this before, I went to VO Atlanta thinking, oh, I have all this information that I'm going to share. I have all the wisdom. I contain all the wisdom of my 30 some years in voiceover. And I'm going to go help people, you know? And I came back with more information than I think I arrived with. I learned so much from people who do not have careers that look like mine, and people who don't want my career, who don't want what I do. They want what they do and they want to know how to do it better, right? And it was really beautifully eye-opening, right? And so began this expansion of the posse of people that I hang out with, and avail myself of and to. And so that's what I want to summarize. I think it is really important to have a few people in your circle, right, who are right where you are, who do voiceover just like you do. And you're all familiar with the same kinds of things and the same kinds of problems, right? Same kinds of issues. You can share and you can commiserate and you can laugh and you can, all those things. And then I think it's really good to have people in your circle who have different careers than you do. Um, they may be peers on one level or another, um, but it's different, right? Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Is it gonna happen? If I look at the light, it'll happen. Shoot. All right, I'm gonna try to hang on. Um, so it's good to have people who may be they may be peers, but they have different careers, right? And this is where you start to be able to share information with each other and learn something from each other, right, on a practical level, right? And then you want to have people in your life that you surround yourself with who know more than you do, who are further along the path, um, and who are further along the same path that you're walking and further along a path that you're not even on, right? Because that's where, of course, we can really learn and grow and expand, and figure out new things, right? Super important. Hello, Genevieve. I'm glad you're here. Um, and then you also want to have people. You also want to surround yourself with some people, um, who um, who aren't as far along as you are. You want to be able to mentor people. I say mentor kind of loosely. I don't necessarily mean it's a formal kind of a thing, but people with whom you can share your knowledge. I think that's really the best way to put it, right? That people who might just be starting out or who are perplexed or flummoxed by whatever state they're in, and you've experienced that already, and you can say, oh, I can help you with that if you'd like, or I have some perspective for you, or or some kind of comforting words of like, yeah, that happens to us all, or um, so that we really have a well-rounded posse of people and community of people around us. Um, I certainly have all those things. I have people who have been at this a lot longer than I have, from whom I still glean wisdom, even though I've been at it as long as I have. And then I have people, certainly people that I'm walking alongside, um, people that, with whom I grew up in voiceover, and that we speak the same language and we understand the same issues and problems, right? And then I have people who are coming up behind me, if you will, who are still perhaps in the Los Angeles market, right? That have the same, we speak the same language, but they're not quite as far along. And then I have people who do voiceover very, very differently than I do altogether. And they make more money than I do. They do it differently. Some of them don't even have agents. Like, wow, what's that about? What's that like? I can't even imagine not having an agent and doing voiceover. That is a rough path for to me. That's a rough path. Like, I don't know if I would do voiceover if that was the path I had to take, because I'm not terribly um, extroverted. It's really hard for me to reach out to people I don't know, and um, to cultivate relationships in that way. And so that's a piece where I just have mad respect for people who do things differently than I do. And should the day come when I want or need to shift gears, I have people I can go to and ask their opinion and advice, and what their experience is and how I should proceed and all of that, right? So um, I think what happens when pardon me, third coffee of the day. I think what happens when we start to surround ourselves only with people who do things exactly the way we do, we start to think of ourselves again, as either being better than, or worse than. It's mostly, I think, it shows up in that kind of insecure ego thing of like, well, they're not doing it right, and that's not the way it should be done. And how dare people talk about doing non-union work or going FICOR? How dare they? How dare they? And it's like, it's just evidence to me that they've drawn a circle around themselves that is very small, and myopic. And if uh, I feel like we have to learn to expand our vision, if only to incorporate the knowledge doesn't necessarily mean that we have to incorporate the behavior, but we have to incorporate the knowledge if we're going to get real about who's out there and who's doing what, and how the entirety of the business is being conducted. Like, why would I want to hide myself under a rock and then what, come out later and go, where did all the work go? I wonder how that happened. That's happened to a lot of friends of mine, right? I also have friends that I grew up with in voiceover who no longer do voiceover at all. And that to me is super informative too, because guess what? There's life after voiceover. These are people who recreated their lives when voiceover no longer served them, and they couldn't make their way through it. And I think that there's something in all of us that have that kind of fear, right? And the truth is, there is life without voiceover, good life without voiceover, interesting life, right? And um, so it's really important that we incorporate um, people with different understanding around us. It's true in life. It's true, you know, it's true in politics. It's true in voiceover. Like, let's not close our minds off to the variety of people who are out there, and the very conscious way that they have come to the career that they have come, right? Super, super important. So, hello, Robert Paulson. 100% the best lesson I've learned from Kay. And other Hollywood veterans is being smart enough to know that I don't know all that much. I can learn and improve till it's dirt nap time. Yes, it's true. It's true. Um, it's true. Like, there's never comes a time when you're just like, yeah, I'm done learning, you know? I think that truly is like I'm out, you know. Like I never want to be done learning and I never want to be done being curious about other people and what they have to offer and what they bring. Um, so that's kind of my message for the day. Anybody have any questions? Not seeing any questions. Not seeing any questions as of yet. Um, I would even take thoughts about what I just said. I just want to make sure that I give you ample time if there is something that you want to articulate. Um, I don't want to. I don't want to jump off too soon because you never know, and there might be people lurking, waiting to ask a question. Na, 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 na. Anything, my friends? Some of us type slowly. Yes, I understand. You know, I used to do the stadium announcing uh, at the BNP Paribas Open, Tennis Open in Indian Wells, California. It's a fantastic tennis tournament. And I had a whip smart producer, just like, my God, she was a fantastic producer. And sometimes she would come to me and say, oh, we have to change this script. Do you want to type it up? Right? I'd be like, okay. You know, and I'm sitting at my computer and she's just hovering over me, watching me do this script, and I'm type so slowly, and it's like we have to, time's wasting. Like you're gonna have to now. It was hilarious, and just over the couple of years that I worked for her, I was like, you can't stand over me and watch me type because I type so slowly. Um, Building a posse. This is from John. Building a posse when you're not naturally outgoing. How does that work? Um, how does that work? Well, as you know, John, I'm not naturally outgoing. I know that doesn't make sense for a lot of people because here I stand before you on camera, but I'm alone in my room with my dog. You know, I'm not with a bunch of people. I think it just takes time, and I think doing the kinds of things that you did at VO Atlanta is that can happen. And I think for introverted people, it really happens one person at a time. And I don't think we can have an expectation that we're going to sort of gather this large group of people around us in short order. I have built my posse of people over decades, and it also doesn't mean that if you have a posse that you're all hanging out at the same time and that you're meeting up as a group or anything like that. My posse is that, you know, they're all individual people that I talk with and meet with one on one usually. You know, every once in a while, back before COVID and when I lived in LA, we there are three or four of us that might meet up for dinner once a year, you know, or we would meet up at a conference. We would meet up at Promax and go out to dinner, you know, that kind of thing. But mostly to me, a posse is built up of one-on-one relationships, and that's why I think it's great for an introvert too, you know. So I think it takes time, and I just think that's how it works, John. It works one on one, one person at a time, and it's trial and error too. Um, I'll tell you what I did at VO Atlanta. Um, and I didn't go to parties, and I don't go to karaoke, and I don't go to the events, you know, that are before me and offered to me. I think I probably told one or two of you that I just decided to sit down in the lobby with my computer. I had work to be done. And I just, if somebody came up and sat down and said, do you have a minute? I'd say, yeah. And then I would sit and talk to that one person, you know? And then throughout the conference, again, I didn't attend anything, not one thing did I attend, but I made dates with individuals. You know, I had breakfast with this person, I had lunch with this person, I had cocktails with that person, I had dinner with that person, I had after dinner cocktails with that person, and I did that for you know, 3 days. And so I got to see people, and I got to, you know, continue to get to know people, and kind of build that sense of there are people who've been in it longer, who are in different areas of voiceover. There are people just coming up, right? I got all of that. And so that's a long answer to your question, but I do think it's slowly and one person at a time. That's what I would say. Mo Beatty question. I do on camera and voiceover, and I would like to make voiceover a little bit more important and get involved in the community, but I feel so overwhelmed as to exactly where to start outside of my agent and the few people that I know. Like, sorry, like where do I go to find events or network casting places or reach out to casting? It's a good question. And one that I totally want to open up to the group as well, because all of these things that you talk about, Mo, they are a little bit, they're a little extroverted, which I'm not an extrovert, in case I didn't say that. Um, where do I go to find events or networking places? Um, I I feel like I network online, and there are if people want to type in the voiceover groups that they're a part of that they find beneficial and helpful and good networking places, that would be awesome. Just to type in ones that are like, this is a great place to hang out, stuff like that. That would be super helpful. I think then also, Mo, that like there are a couple of really great conferences that you can go to, and we just had one, VO Atlanta, which really is a great conference. And it's really great for networking, not just with casting. Casting is there, absolutely. So are agents, um, but networking with your fellow voice actors, and everybody there is 99% of them are exclusively voice actors. There are some people who do, who do on camera work as well, but it's mostly voice actors. And there's one coming up in Dallas in August. I think it's August 10th through 13th. You can look at this one. It is the One Voice conference, One Voice USA, which is also a really great conference. They have an awards component that's really fun. That you don't have to pay to submit. You don't have to pay if you win. It's a really fun place to be. And again, there's so much information, both from working stiffs like all of us who are just trying to find more work, and also casting and agents, and it's really fun. And that conference is run by Gravy for the Brain, which is it a couple of crazy Brits that I adore and love. Um, and it's just a really fun conference. So I suggest that one. So let me get your follow up, Mo. But I feel like I find mostly other voice actors versus decision makers online. Yeah, that's very very true. I think what you get is like an answer to your question, like you sort of ask your fellow voice actors, who does this? Like, how do I get a hold of this casting person? Does anybody know how I can meet this cat? Right? And so it's the information that you get from your peers to help you figure out where to go to find, right, casting or decision makers, as you say. Um, and that your point there, which is a really good one, really just also points up the fact that the drum that I beat all the time of like, why do we keep putting up all of our work on social media? Because the people who make the decisions are not there looking for our work. That's not how it looks. They're busy in the office casting and doing their thing, through their particular channels, agents and pay to play sites and all of that. And so like reserve that control that impulse to want to post every last piece of work that you do online with the idea that it's somehow helping your career. It's not. It's not a marketing plan. And but it does, it does sort of announce your presence, but it announces your presence to your peers, is what it does. So I hope that that makes sense. These conferences are really interesting places to make contact with decision makers. But again, in voiceover groups with your peers, you can find out things like these casting people hold these particular workshops at this time. You can find them here, you can access them here, all that. So it's a wealth of information that we can get. And this is also why you want to hang out with people who know more than you do, because they have that information, right? And the idea is to share it, and uh, so that's why. So it ought not just be peer to peer, right? But you should have people in your life who know more than you do and are further along the path, and people, and you'll know they're part of your posse when it doesn't bug them that you're like, how do I get a hold of that casting director? And it's the people who say, oh, I can't give you that information. I don't, I just really feel like it's so competitive, and I have that, and it took me 10 years to build that relationship, so I'm not gonna, right? And then I just kind of go, okay, so they're not in my posse, because I'm like a person who's like, whatever I know, I will share it with you, because I am secure in the fact that whatever work belongs to me belongs to me. And so it's not a threat to me that another middle-aged woman is like, so how do I do that? I go, well, this is how I did it. Like, it's just it's just knowledge we possess, and I'm happy to share it. So people who are happy to share their knowledge are people that I want in my posse, right? Um, let's see. I'm going to get your follow up, Mo, in just a second. From Dan Marion, how do you overcome camera shyness? I'm not necessarily an introvert, but definitely camera shy. Oh, I think you just have to get out in front of it, And if you mean camera shy, like what do you mean? Like what I'm doing right now in front of this camera, that kind of thing, talking, uh, or do you mean being at a conference and you don't want your picture taken, or are you wanting to incorporate on-camera acting? Uh, which you say, yup. Do you mean like all of it? um, let me know. You clarify that, and I'm gonna YouTube. Oh, okay. So you're wanting to like do live streaming, and put videos up. Okay, that you just got to get on camera. You just got to get on camera and give it a try, and it's with time that you get used to staring into a lens, right? And you know, for me, I'm like, well, I mean, I've sort of learned, and you learn this with time, that it's like, okay, what's the camera angle? Okay, I think I need that a little bit higher, and this is my good side, and um, and you learn to work it in that regard. But it is time. It's just time in front of the camera, and um, I try to employ just a basic acting skill, if you will, and I look at the camera like I'm looking at a person I know. And that is what I imagine. And I hope that that is the sense you get when I look into the camera, that I'm looking at you. So that's right. Yes, Rob. It's like any other uncomfortable experience. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. And you know what? And you have to refrain from criticizing yourself. Like, you don't go back and analyze and go, oh God, I did. Just keep moving forward, forward, forward. And and eventually you can go back and you can see this comparison and this difference of like, oh, I've improved. I got better. I got better at this by virtue of time. Um, I have learned, interestingly enough, that I do better on these things off the cuff. It's shocking to me. Shocking. But when I spend time beforehand practicing or talking out loud to myself about what are the finer points I want to say, then I get in front of you and I am mindful that I had all these things I wanted to say, but of course I don't remember them now because I didn't write them down. So I have learned that I'm better just doing things off the cuff. But if there is if there is a time when I really need to make super specific points, I will just put it in like a bullet list, and I'll put it in my notes and I will refer to the bullet list. But I really try not to practice Facebook Lives. And I'll say this, um, every there will always be somebody out there who's ready to criticize you for the thing that you're doing, whether it's voiceover or whether it's on camera. I got a direct message from someone I do not know, that I've never met. I think it was one of those times when I accidentally put this broadcast on my regular Facebook page instead of in the group. So, and it was, open to the public. And so whoever, wherever I ran across their page, they could see me. So I got this direct message from a guy telling me that, that I had a nice vibe, but that I really needed to clean up the ums and the ahs and all that kind of stuff, you know. And I thought, wow, I did not ask your opinion. Like, I don't care, because this is how I speak. And I'm okay. I'm not here. I'm not doing Toastmasters right now. And I'm not doing a keynote right now. I'm just talking to my people, my friends, my colleagues. And so I didn't even respond, but it was like, wow, thanks. Thank you so much for the criticism that I didn't even ask for. But, and then I refused to go back and look to see how many times I say or ah, or like, I don't care. I think he also said something like, if you could stop saying like. Anyway, truly, I just didn't care. So I think that's something that we have to get used to as well, and plow forward. What is my objective? My objective is not to gather all of these things up and make them perfect. That's not the objective. The objective is to speak truthfully from my heart about the topic at hand. So that's what I do. And you kind of have to put some blinders on to that kind of criticism, because it can derail you. Whenever you're trying something new, and this again is why it's so important to have a beautiful posse of people around you who can support you and see you through the beginning stages, so that you don't succumb to the criticism and everybody yammering at you about it. You should do it this way and you should do it that way, and this is the only one way to do it, and you need to have an agent, and you better have a demo before, don't make your demo before blah blah blah, and you got to have all the experience before you make your demo, and you know what, you're not ready to make a demo, and you know what, your demo really sucks, and you know what, I can point you to somebody who could do another demo for you for $3,500. Like, what? Like, oh my god. It's too much. And so we need friends around us who remind us, right? It's all right. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, right? Robert Paulson, but there was a time when it would have bothered you. Yes, absolutely. Totally. Totally. Yeah. And that probably, set me back several years. Um, the entire first 25 years of my career, I didn't want to go on camera you know, because I didn't think I was young enough, and I didn't think I was pretty enough, and I didn't think I was thin enough. And now I'm like, I am what I am. I'm as old as I am. You know, I have the body I have. I have the face that I have. I have the wrinkles that I have. Like, okay. Um, but yes, it is true, and that I did react that way, and I did take the criticism, and it was a drag. So that's my advice, though. Like, one foot in front of the other. Keep going. You have a right to learn. You have a right to be bad. You have a right to not get it right. That's the sum total of the life of an artist. You have a right to get it wrong. So go out there and film yourself and do it, and you'll get better. You'll get better every time. So, any more questions? I don't think so. Let me scroll here. I think that is it. Yes, Dan, I'll see you at One Voice. Anything else? I think off the cuff sounds good. That's good. Yes, we are all our own worst critics. That is very true. Um, all right. Now singing the song, I am what I am what I am. Beautiful. Um, Fantastic. I always think of Popeye, of course, but that dates me and ages me, so we won't go there. I think that's it for today. I've been yammering at you for 35 minutes. Sourdough bread recipes. I'll send you some starter. You let me know, and I'll send you some starter. Oh, thank you, Mo. The Voiceover Network. So the Voiceover Network, there's some that are so similar in name, but I'm thinking that you're thinking of the one that it comes out of Great Britain, right? With Rachel Naylor. Is that right? I think that's the one. I think it's a great organization, and it's full of great information and good people. There's a lot about it that is UK based, but they do have stuff that goes on in the United States. I think it's a good organization. I was a member of it for a while, and I'm just not anymore because I'm just kind of whittling down my membership things, you know. But I've written for their magazine before, and yeah, I think it's a good organization. It just keep in mind that much of it is UK based, right? So I will just say that about that. Um, if you're planning on going to the UK, it's a good organization to get involved with. Um, okay, I uh, I think we're done for the day. Um, as always, if you have questions, put them here. Send me a direct message if you need to, and carry on. Yeah, have a great rest of your week. Good weekend, and I hope everybody got their taxes turned in. Um, I did, I think. Although I think I'm on, I think, what do they call it? I'm on extension for some of it. Ugh, I hate that. Just prolongs the agony, but such is life. Anyway, all right. I adore you all. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I will see you next week. If there's anything that you want me to address, if you want me to talk about a particular topic as a prompt, okay, just let me know. Send me a message, put it in the comments, and we'll get it on the schedule. Okay. All right. Love you all. Talk to you soon.